I regret 98% of these tattoos, 97%, almost all of them.
Jelly Roll surprised the students at his old stomping grounds this week. Now to tell the school their band would open the 2024 CMA.
He was the voice of resilience, the fighter who turned pain into platinum hits. But behind Jelly Roll's tattoos and triumphs, a silent battle was unfolding, one he kept hidden from even his closest fans. Then a single moment backstage cracked it all wide open, and what followed left his entire team shaken. The signs were there, but did anyone notice in time? For years, Jelly Roll has been more than just a chart-topping artist. He has been a symbol of survival. From prison cells to the Grammy stage, his journey reads like a movie script, gritty, raw, and full of heart. But even the strongest voices can crack when the weight gets too heavy, and behind closed doors, Jelly Roll has been carrying a burden far darker than anyone imagined. Sources close to the country rap star have revealed that recent events have shaken him to his core. While fans cheered his sold-out shows and celebrated his mainstream breakthrough, Jelly Roll was quietly grappling with a personal crisis, one that threatened not just his career, but his health, his relationships, and even his will to keep going. It was not a tabloid scandal or a public meltdown. It was something deeper, more human, something that speaks to the very battles he has always sung about. Addiction, anxiety, and the haunting ghosts of trauma that never fully disappear. In interviews, he has hinted at the dark days returning, but no one knew just how close to the edge he really was until now. Insiders say it started with subtle changes, missed calls, cancelled appearances, a distant look in his eyes. Then came the turning point, a private emergency that forced him to confront everything he thought he had conquered, a moment so intense it left those around him fearing the worst. And yet, through it all, he did what he always does, put on a brave face for his fans. But the mask is starting to slip. In the coming moments, we are diving into the devastating details Jelly Roll never meant to share, the truth about what has been going on behind the music, the tour trips, and the spotlight. As the full picture unfolds, one question lingers like smoke in the air: can the man who rose from rock bottom survive this fall? Before the bright lights and Billboard charts, before the sold-out arenas and tearful award speeches, he was just Jason DeFord, a kid from the Antioch neighborhood of Nashville, Tennessee, where dreams did not often come true and second chances were rarely given. Born on December 4, 1984, Jason's early life was steeped in struggle. He grew up in a working-class home with a mother battling mental health issues and addiction, and a father who sold meat out of a truck to make ends meet. His environment was raw, unstable, and often unforgiving. But somewhere in that chaos, a young Jason found strange comfort in music, especially the kind that told the truth. Rap music became his refuge. He was drawn to artists who wore their pain like armor, like Tupac and 3 6 Mafia, men who turned scars into anthems. But even as he started writing rhymes and dreaming about something bigger, the streets were already calling. By the time he was a teenager, Jason had fallen into a life that mirrored the ones in the songs he idolized: crime and time behind bars. At just 14 years old, he was arrested for the first time. By 16, he was in and out of juvenile detention. Not long after, he found himself facing a felony charge that would stick with him for years. For many, that would have been the end of the road, a one-way ticket to nowhere. But something inside him refused to fade quietly. While serving time, Jason began to sharpen his writing skills. He poured his emotions into verses, scribbling lyrics in jail cells and dreaming of a stage he had not seen yet. It was not just therapy, it was survival. When he finally got out, he took the name Jelly Roll, a nickname his mother gave him as a chubby kid, and transformed it into a brand of brutal honesty. He began selling mixtapes out of the trunk of his car, performing at underground shows, and collaborating with fellow Southern rappers. The grind was real, no managers, no budget, just raw talent and a relentless will. His music spoke of addiction, poverty, broken homes, and redemption, not as abstract themes, but as lived experiences. And slowly, the world started to notice. But success did not come overnight. For years, Jelly Roll was dismissed by the mainstream as just another underground act. His appearance, covered in tattoos, heavyset, often emotional, did not fit the polished image of pop culture. Yet that is what made him real, and it is why his fan base grew fiercely loyal. They were not just listening to his songs, they were living them. Behind the scenes, Jelly Roll's life was shifting too. He became a father at a young age, an experience that changed him more than any hit record ever could. His daughter, Bailey Ann, became the anchor in his storm, the reason he kept going when everything else felt like it was falling apart. Later, he met Bunny, a podcaster and model who became not only his wife but his rock, supporting him through the darkest moments and helping him believe in love again. Family became the center of his world. Even while touring and building a name for himself, Jelly Roll made sure his fans knew what really mattered to him: his wife, his kids, and the idea of building a better legacy than the one he came from. Still, the demons never fully disappeared. He has been open about his ongoing battle with addiction and mental health, acknowledging that while the fame may have grown, the pain didn't magically vanish. His rise in country music wasn't something anyone expected, not even him. But when he crossed over into the genre, blending his raw lyrics with twangy melodies and heartfelt storytelling, it clicked. Suddenly, a whole new audience discovered Jelly Roll, and they saw not just an artist but a man who had survived the kind of pain most people hide from. His breakout single Son of a Sinner captured the contradiction that lived inside him, the push and pull between faith and failure, between redemption and relapse. The song catapulted him into a new stratosphere, earning him awards, TV appearances, and even an emotional Grand Ole Opry debut. For the kid from Antioch, it was a full-circle moment that brought tears to his eyes and silence to a room full of legends. But even as his star rose, the weight of his past never left his shoulders. Jelly Roll has often said he doesn't want to be famous, he wants to be impactful. He wants to be the voice that reminds broken people they're not alone. And that mission, while noble, takes a toll. Behind the scenes, the pressure has mounted. With every success came more responsibility, more expectations, more nights staring at the ceiling wondering if he was enough. And recently, those cracks have begun to show. Family insiders and longtime collaborators have hinted that the burden Jelly Roll has been carrying, his past, his present, his role as a husband, father, and public figure, is beginning to catch up with him. A quiet health scare, whispered fears of burnout, and emotional tension behind closed doors have all added to the storm swirling beneath the surface. He is still smiling for the cameras, still giving his all to fans. But those who know him best say something has shifted. He is retreating more, reflecting deeper, wrestling with whether he can truly outrun the pain he has spent decades singing about. And that is where we find Jelly Roll today, not just as a musician but as a man caught between the life he escaped and the life he has built. A husband, a father, a fighter, and perhaps now more than ever, a soul searching for peace in a world that keeps pulling him back into the fire. What happens next in his story remains unwritten, but one thing is for sure, the battle is not over, and the next chapter might be the most defining one yet. For months, whispers had been circling in Jelly Roll's camp, not from tabloids or bloggers but from those closest to him. His tour crew, his family, and even his wife Bunny had begun to notice the signs. The sleepless nights, the increasing fatigue, the moments on stage where he seemed distant, not disconnected from the music but from himself. Something was not right. Then came the moment that sent shockwaves through his inner circle, a private medical emergency just hours before a major appearance. According to insiders, Jelly Roll had collapsed in his dressing room moments before stepping out to greet a packed audience. The room was quiet one second and chaos the next. Emergency responders were called. His blood pressure had spiked. He was pale, shaking, and struggling to catch his breath. At first, fans were told it was exhaustion, that the tour schedule had caught up with him. But those on the inside knew better. This was not just fatigue. It was a warning sign. His body was screaming what his mind had been too proud to say out loud: he was burning out. Doctors advised immediate rest, a full stop on touring, and a deep dive into his overall health. But Jelly Roll, ever the fighter, pushed back. There were dates booked, fans waiting, obligations he felt he could not walk away from. Canceling shows felt like breaking promises. And if there is one thing Jelly Roll has always tried to do, it is never let his people down, because he knows what it feels like to be left behind. Still, behind closed doors, the reality was undeniable. Years of physical strain, emotional pressure, and mental health battles had taken their toll. The man who had once conquered addiction was now facing another kind of beast, the unrelenting pressure of keeping everyone else strong while silently falling apart himself. It was not just the collapse. There were other red flags. A missed podcast appearance with Bunny, rare for a couple so open and united. A sudden hiatus from social media. A string of postponed interviews without clear explanation. The man who used to pour out his soul online had gone quiet. And fans began to notice. And then the confession came, not in a press release, not in a dramatic headline, but in a quiet late-night live stream. With his face lit only by a dim lamp, Jelly Roll spoke to his fans, not as a star but as a man in pain. "I ain't been okay," he admitted, his voice cracking. "I thought I could carry it all, but I can't. I've been scared, I've been tired, and I've been ignoring my own warning signs for too long." He went on to speak about the pressure of performing while struggling with anxiety and panic attacks. He admitted that he had fallen back into unhealthy habits, not drugs, but emotional eating, isolation, and pushing his limits until his body finally gave out. What made the moment so powerful was not just his honesty. It was his humility. Jelly Roll, the man who once stared down prison walls and addiction, was now admitting something perhaps even harder, that he was human, and he needed help. In the days that followed, fans rallied around him. Messages of love, support, and understanding poured in from all corners of the internet. His wife Bunny shared her own post, a raw message reminding everyone that strength is not about always being okay, it is about knowing when to pause, heal, and ask for grace. But as the dust settled, a deeper truth emerged, one that rattled even his most loyal followers. Doctors had discovered that Jelly Roll was at serious risk of developing long-term health complications if he did not change course. High blood pressure, chronic stress, and warning signs of cardiac strain had all shown up in recent tests. The kind of issues that left unchecked could end a life too soon. He was given a choice: take a break and face these issues now or risk not being around to finish the legacy he started. It was a wake-up call that couldn't be ignored. Quietly, Jelly Roll began to restructure everything. He pulled out of several upcoming shows. He shifted his focus to recovery, physically, emotionally, spiritually. He started seeing a therapist again, working with a trainer, and reconnecting with the spiritual practices he'd abandoned during the whirlwind of success. More importantly, he started really talking to his family, to Bunny, to his daughter, opening up about the fears he had buried for years. Because the truth is, the pain never fully leaves you, it just finds new places to hide. Fans who have followed him for years know this isn't the first storm he's weathered, but this one feels different. This isn't about bouncing back from failure. It's about choosing to live fully even when you feel like you're breaking. And that's what makes this chapter so powerful. Jelly Roll is no longer just the underdog who made it out. He's the man standing at the peak, looking back at the darkness and choosing to walk forward with clarity. This moment, while devastating, could become the most pivotal of his life, not because of the crisis itself, but because of what he decides to do next. Will he return stronger, more focused, more intentional? Will he take the reins of his health and finally put himself first? Or will the weight of expectation pull him back into the grind that almost ended everything? No one knows for sure. But one thing is clear: Jelly Roll's story isn't finished. It's still being written, line by line, heartbreak by heartbreak, triumph by triumph. And if this chapter has shown us anything, it's that even our heroes need healing. So as fans, all we can do now is wait and hope that the next time he steps on stage, it's not just to sing for us but because he truly wants to be there, healthy, whole, and ready to begin again. For all the heartache, all the raw lyrics, and all the sold-out arenas, Jelly Roll's greatest achievement may not be found on a Billboard chart, but in the quiet ways he has changed lives beyond the stage. Because behind the tattoos and the troubled past is a man who's built a legacy rooted not just in success but in service. Over the years, Jelly Roll has used his platform not for vanity but for visibility, for the overlooked, the incarcerated, the addicted, and the brokenhearted. He hasn't just sung about redemption, he has lived it. And he's reached back to pull others out of the fire too. One of his most powerful contributions came when he returned to the same juvenile detention center in Nashville where he was once held as a teen. But this time, he didn't walk in as an inmate. He walked in as a mentor. He donated $250,000 to build a music studio inside the facility, giving young inmates an outlet, a voice, and a reason to believe that they too could rewrite their stories. "I wanted to give these kids hope," he said in a 2023 interview with CBS Mornings. "Music saved my life. Maybe it can save theirs too." His efforts didn't stop there. Jelly Roll has also been a fierce advocate for mental health awareness, addiction recovery, and criminal justice reform. He's spoken at recovery centers, supported nonprofit reentry programs, and used his social media following to raise money for families affected by addiction. In a time when many celebrities shy away from real-world issues, Jelly Roll steps into them. Even his relationship with his wife Bunny has become a beacon of love and healing. Together, they've turned their podcast Dumb Blonde into a platform where trauma, recovery, and redemption are openly discussed, giving listeners not just entertainment but emotional refuge. Jelly Roll's fans aren't just supporters, they're survivors. His concerts feel less like shows and more like group therapy sessions where strangers sing along to their own pain and healing. And that, perhaps, is the heart of his impact. He's created a community. He's given a voice to people who felt invisible. He has shown that your past doesn't define your future. He has reminded us that redemption is messy but possible. And now, as he faces one of the hardest chapters of his life, Jelly Roll's legacy feels more urgent than ever, not because of fear but because of faith. Faith that the man who rose from rock bottom can rise once more. This time, not for fame or applause, but for himself. The story of Jelly Roll isn't a fairy tale. It's not clean, polished, or predictable. It's a battle-scarred ballad, one filled with bad choices, broken hearts, brave comebacks, and unfinished lines. But that's what makes it so powerful. Because when Jelly Roll steps on stage, he brings every part of his story with him. And when he disappears from the spotlight, it's a reminder that even our heroes bleed. Even our strongest voices sometimes need rest. And even the man who gave us hope may need us now more than ever. So if you've ever found comfort in his music, if his lyrics ever helped you through a sleepless night, if his journey reminded you that healing is possible, then this is your moment to show up for him. Send him love and support his recovery. And if you're facing your own battle, let his story be a reminder, you're not alone. You matter. And it's never too late to begin again. Like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification button while we're watching, waiting, and rooting for the next chapter.